Hello.
Hello, hello.
Is it recording? We should stop that.
Yes, let me see how I can turn this off.
Meeting in the series. Welcome to the second meeting in the series of community engagement meetings we will be having pertaining to the White Stadium renovation project. The theme of today's meeting revolves around economic development, community benefits, and supplier diversity. We are joined today with various city staff members, including members of the Economic Opportunity and Inclusion Cabinet, the Workers Empowerment Cabinet, and the city's community engagement team. We are also joined by members of the Boston Unity Soccer Partners team, who will be sharing their updated plans for meeting supplier diversity goals and distributing community benefits. Before we get started, we are providing translations for today's meeting. To set that up, you have to go onto the horizontal control bar at the bottom of your screen, at the bottom of the Zoom screen, click on the interpretation button there, and we have interpretations in Spanish, Haitian Creole, and Cape Verdean Creole. Then click on the language that you would like to hear, and you will then have access to this meeting in that particular language. Also, just a reminder for all of our speakers and during our Q&A portion, please remember to speak slowly because we're having people doing live translations. The purpose of this tonight's meeting is to share the city's and the Boston Unity's draft plans on economic development through supplier diversity and community benefits for the White Stadium project. We look forward to hearing your feedback about how the community wants to see how these funds and benefits are distributed to support the local economy and to benefit all our Franklin Park neighbors. So let's get into the agenda tonight. First, we'll review the background of the project, where the project is. Then we're going to talk about the economic development and supplier diversity for both sides of the project. So there's two sides, the city side and then the Boston Unity side. This is because they're subject to different laws and policies. On the city side, we'll talk about how we're advancing the supplier diversity goals on this project, and more generally, how we support economic development and workforce development in ways that can be brought forth through this project. On the Boston Unity side, we'll talk about their plans. They'll talk about their plans for the supplier diversity and economic goals as well. And they will also finally talk about the Boston Unity's proposed community benefits. We designed today's meeting so that we can maximize time for you all, for the Q&A portion for the community. As a result, the chat will be closed while each presenter is speaking during the formal presentation, so we can limit distractions in the chat and focus on really the details of the plan. We will then open up the chat and do our best to answer the questions that are in the chat. Please know that we are taking in every bit of feedback through the chat and other resources as well. And make sure that during the Q&A portion you allow time for questions to come up in the chat as well, and we'll be monitoring that when that comes up. Now I'm going to pass it over to a fellow team member, Morgan McDaniel, who is the Deputy Chief of Operations, to share some background on where we are with the White Stadium project.
Thanks so much, Brianna. And just to repeat, my name is Morgan McDaniel, Deputy Chief of Operations at the city. Just going to get us all on the same baseline. I know many folks here have been to previous meetings on the White Stadium project, but for anyone who's new, want to make sure everybody has the same information. So to give some background, here's a photo of White Stadium. This building was constructed in 1945. It is in dire need of renovation due to a very outdated infrastructure and a lot of structural damage from a fire several decades ago. It has still been a place that many folks in the community enjoy. Boston Public Schools uses daily. It's a home of many BPS athletic programming and community events, and currently seats 10,000 people. It is owned and run by Boston Public Schools. We've stated before, and I'll continue to state, that ownership will continue to remain with Boston Public Schools. And BPS uses and athletics will always be prioritized as we are undergoing this renovation. We're really excited for the opportunity to provide our students with access to state-of-the-art facilities that they really deserve. So the vision that we're really excited to be moving towards here overall is to be able to renovate and restore White Stadium as a treasure of BPS athletics. Through the Green New Deal for BPS, Mayor Wu committed to transformative investments in White Stadium that'll provide BPS students with the most advantageous experience, improve educational, professional, and athletic opportunities. So we see White Stadium as a place to revitalize and reimagine a hub of BPS athletics. And we're excited to be able to deliver state-of-the-art athletic facilities, opportunity to build leadership skills on and off the field, a space to improve community health and wellness, and other partnerships that can benefit students and community members for long-term career readiness. An example of this is, potential partnerships with Madison Park and other schools that will get students working in jobs related to vocational education. So this is an early conceptual image of, what we might be able to and hope to be able to deliver for BPS. If you focus on this side, which is the East Grandstand, which the city will be responsible for constructing, you can see we're going to be rebuilding the grandstand, new offices, athletic offices, storage, new study spaces, and a brand new 8-lane track and indoor strength and conditioning and student resource facilities that don't exist today that our students really deserve, and we're excited to be able to deliver. And part of being able to deliver this is the public-private partnership that we're here to discuss today. It's a really unique opportunity between the City of Boston and Boston Unity Soccer Partners. Through this partnership, we can deliver a world-class stadium that will be used by a professional women's soccer league 20 days out of the year, but will be a world-class stadium for BPS and community groups to utilize the rest of the year. It'll provide an activated event space. And to do this, we are going to be coordinating 2 simultaneous construction projects that will be coordinated to have a harmonious and unified design. And so just to ground us before we move into the rest of the presentation, I just want to be clear about why we're talking about the city's efforts and Boston Unity's efforts for economic development and supplier diversity. The city will be responsible for constructing the East Grandstand and the track and field, which is in purple. Boston Unity's lease area is what is outlined in yellow that they will be responsible for. And we're pointing this out because the city is subject to different laws than a private entity might be. So our options as we're pursuing our shared goal of supporting and advancing minority and women-owned businesses through this project, we have different tools in our toolbox. So just want to be clear about that. And lastly, just bringing everyone up to speed on the timeline of this project so far. Last winter, we began programming study or our partners at the Public Facilities Department began a programming study to identify BPS's athletic needs and what they might want to see in a new facility. Then in April, we issued a request for proposals to lease a portion of the stadium in order to identify this public-private partnership that will lead to increased opportunity. We received a proposal over the summer, had public discussions, and decided to move forward with this partnership. And so now we are in the midst of a long stretch of community engagement that we're going sort of theme by theme to advance the idea, advance and flesh out these ideas. So we've had a meeting on the subject of transportation. We're here tonight to discuss supplier diversity and community benefits. We'll be engaging with the BPS community regarding what BPS's needs are. We will have engagement around, the important topic of how this project will interact with the Franklin Park Action Plan. And of course, as we get further down the line on stadium design, we'll be having conversations with the community about that as well. And I want to encourage everyone to go to boston.gov/white-stadium for any more information on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan, for your leadership on this. Just a reminder, tonight we're going to be talking about, supplier diversity and the community benefits. So if you do have any questions or concerns about any of the other topics, please use the email. As a reminder, the chat will remain closed during the presentation piece of this meeting. We will open the chat during the Q&A section at the end of the meeting. With that being said, I'm happy to introduce Shagun Idowu, who's the Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chief Malloy. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shagun Idowu. I have the privilege of serving as the Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion. And I'm joined today by a member of our supplier diversity team, Andre Lima, who's serves as the director. And I also just want to point out a couple of the other folks that are joining us may not be speaking during the slide presentation, but support this work around supplier diversity. I think I saw Casey Brock Wilson, who's the city's purchasing agent and serves as the director of procurement. And I saw John Borders, who's the director of tourism, sports, and entertainment, as well as Chief Dion Irish. So very briefly, going to talk a little bit on the next slide about some of the work that we've been doing around supplier diversity. As everyone here knows, the mayor prioritized supplier diversity as one of the chief goals of this administration, to ensure that we are delivering and providing opportunities to businesses owned by women, people of color, veterans, and small and local businesses. And this comes on the heels of what we saw in 2020, when there was a disparity study conducted to better understand the work of the city in providing these contracts to diverse companies. And what that report found was that we were not meeting the city's stated commitment to providing these contracts to women and BIPOC-owned businesses. And so in 2021, then Mayor Walsh signed an executive order that set aspirational targets of 10% for minority businesses and 15% for women-owned businesses. And what we were proud of just a few weeks ago, all of us standing in the Bowling building, Bruce Bowling, former councilor, of course, who was a chief advocate for the city achieving supplier diversity goals. We were proud to be able to share that within just one fiscal year, the mayor's first true fiscal year, we were able to double contract awards to minority businesses. And in total, for all women and minority businesses in fiscal 22, the city spent roughly awarded contracts worth roughly $150 million. I say all this to lead into the fact that we are confident here in OEOI through our supplier diversity team that this particular project, we will reach our goals. Our dedication is to ensuring that we are delivering both on the name of our cabinet. It was Mayor Wu that changed the name of our cabinet from economic development to economic opportunity and inclusion, because one thing she understands is that there is no such thing as economic opportunity without inclusion, but also that we understand that the development of some communities cannot coexist with the underdevelopment of others. And so that's why it is a stated priority and the mission of our cabinet to ensure that we are providing as many opportunities as possible to those who have been historically left out of these opportunities. So on the next slide, I'll just end by saying that while we are very proud of the fact that in just one fiscal year, we were able to double the amount of awarded contracts to minority-owned businesses, we know that we can't pat ourselves on the back and celebrate this accomplishment and move forward as if it will continue to happen that way without intentionality. And so on that same day that we celebrated this accomplishment, we also signed a public document with a number of partners. Some of them are on your screen here, the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, Amplify Latinx, the Asian Business Empowerment Council, as well as the LGBT Chamber of Commerce and many others, to work with us as the City of Boston to help us continue to not just meet the accomplishment of the last fiscal year, but to exceed this success every year hereafter. Andre, who's going to be speaking shortly, is going to share a little bit about some of the policies and programs that our team led on in partnership with the finance cabinet and others to help us achieve these goals, but also to share how we intend to make sure that for this specific project, we reach the success that we will wind up determining at a later date. So at that, I will transfer this to Andre.
Thank you, Chief Idowu. Again, my name is Andre Lima. I'm the Director of Supplier Diversity for the City of Boston. I'm going to talk a little bit about our approach to supplier diversity, some of our key strategies and programs. We really take a holistic approach to supplier diversity at the City of Boston, which means, firstly, strengthening the capacity of small businesses, businesses owned by people of color and women, to bid on work for the City of Boston. And we do that, if we could just advance the slide to the next. We do that through programs like our business certification program, our contracting opportunity fund, which is a grant program awarding grants of $15,000 to small local businesses to increase their capacity to bid on work at the city and other large institutional contracts, and a forthcoming initiative called the Scale Accelerator Program, which is aiming to deliver technical assistance to small businesses in Boston, focused in key industry sectors that represent sectors of high spending for the city. So we're committed to increasing the capacity of businesses to participate in work, public work at the City of Boston, also making those opportunities available for businesses, making contracting opportunities available. We do that through programs like our Sheltered Market Program, which was referenced on the previous slide, whereby we designate certain contracts as being available only to women and minority-owned businesses, and other policies or interventions such as goals, target setting for contracts, which is what we're planning on doing for the White Stadium project. So if we go to the next slide, I can go into a little bit more detail about the target setting process for city construction projects. As I mentioned, we set targets, participation targets for MBEs and WBEs, which we will be doing for our portion of the White Stadium project. We have to follow specific public procurement rules when doing so. And in order to do that, we tie the goals to the specific types of work that will go into the project itself. We're a bit early in the process now for White Stadium to be setting targets, but we're committed to setting ambitious goals for the project, and using that as a means of advancing the overall supplier diversity goals of the city that Chief Idowu mentioned, which are 10% and 15% for minority and women-owned businesses, 25% total. And I think that's the last supplier diversity slide.
Want to go to the next slide? Thank you, Andre. So thank you, Andre, and thank you to the Economic Opportunity and Inclusion Cabinet for your leadership on supplier diversity. I want to immediately pass it over to our leader in the Work and Empowerment Cabinet, Rashad Cope.
Great. I was just waiting for someone to unmute me. Great. Thank you so much, Brianna, and good evening, everyone. As Brianna mentioned, Rashad Cope with the Worker Empowerment Cabinet. I'm also here on behalf of our Chief, Trent Nguyen, and our other Deputy Chief, Jody Sugarman-Brosen. Just very quickly, the Worker Empowerment Cabinet is launched back in September of 2022. I'm really aimed at driving and advancing Mayor Wu's vision and priorities forward of enhancing and strengthening Boston's workforce and economy by two areas. One, focusing on worker protection, safety, and rights by regulating, overseeing, and improving workplace conditions and health for workers. And two, through workforce development by expanding economic opportunity for workers through access to quality jobs, skills trainings, and career pipelines. So as we are talking about this White Stadium project, which has been a valuable community staple for decades, we also want to highlight some of the city's workforce development programs that we can really look to leverage to ensure city workers can benefit from this important project. As you can see here, a few of those initiatives, Youth Options Unlimited, it places court-involved young people between the ages of 14 to 24 in paid supervised opportunities with community-based organizations. Summer Learn and Earn is another initiative which provides an opportunity for rising high school juniors and seniors in Boston to earn money while taking college-level courses during the summer. Power Corps, which has been an amazing initiative for the city of Boston. It provides young adults with earn and learn training, career readiness support, and connections to employers in the green industry. And then we also have our SuccessLink Youth Jobs program, which employs Boston youth at local Boston-based nonprofits, community-based organizations, higher education institutions, and city agencies during the summer and also during the school year. And then our Office of Workforce Development has 75 plus community partners that provides training and support services and are funded through several grant-making programs. Just to name two of those, the Neighborhoods Jobs Trust and the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act through WIOA. So through some of these initiatives and with the creation of new jobs through this White Stadium project, we hope to leverage workforce training and youth internship opportunities for this effort. Next slide. And also this project will be subject to the Boston Residents Jobs Policy, BRJP, as we call it, which sets requirements for employment of Boston residents, people of color, and women construction workers on construction projects in the city. Mayor Wu's administration, as you guys just heard, led by Chief Ida Wu's cabinet, who has a dedicated Department of Supplier Diversity in the procurement department, and our Chief Trent Wind Worker Empowerment Cabinet are dedicated to strengthening these pipelines for our BIPOC Boston residents to benefit from city development dollars. The BRJP policy is closely monitored by compliance monitors who meet with contractors throughout the project. The Boston Employment Commission also oversees compliance during monthly meetings that are also open to the public. There is recent data on the progress in meeting BRJP hiring goals that can be found on the city's website for those who are interested. And Jody, as I mentioned, who leads the labor compliance and worker protection area of our work, is aware of this project and readily available to support in any capacity. We are truly excited about this public-private partnership and the investment in our community, the investment in our school system, and also the investment in our young people. And we look forward to being a part of this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashad, and thank you for your leadership in the workforce development space. This concludes the city's updates on its initiatives to strengthening supplier diversity programs and workforce development efforts. And as we mentioned earlier on in the program, it's a unique private and public partnership. So our city leaders are working really closely with the Boston Unity's soccer partnership. We will now hear from the Boston Unity team about their updates about how they plan to reach their supplier diversity goals and disperse community benefits as well to the local community. And at the end of the presentation, just a reminder, we will be doing Q&A and that the chat is closed now, but we will open it during the Q&A portion. And I'll pass it over to the Boston Unity team.
Hi, sorry, I was working on the muting. Thank you very much to the City of Boston for the opportunity to be with you tonight. My name is Jennifer Epstein, and on behalf of Boston Unity Soccer Partners, I look forward to speaking with you this evening about our exciting partnership with the City of Boston to renovate and revitalize White Stadium for the benefits of the students of Boston, the communities around the stadium, while bringing a championship women's soccer team to our city. Several members of our lead ownership group, as well as representatives from our design and development partners. Oh, actually, can we start with our next slide? I'm realizing we're still on your slides. Thank you. Several members of our lead ownership group, as well as representatives from our design and development partners, are also here this evening, some of whom will speak during parts of the presentation. You can go on to the next slide after everyone's had a glance. So as the city has mentioned, tonight's focus is on economic and community benefits, which will flow from this project. Partnering with the city, BPS, and the community to transform the stadium is a real opportunity for positive benefit for many. Yet we recognize the importance of ensuring it's not at the expense of others. Since last December 2022, we have been actively engaging with the community to familiarize ourselves with the priorities, concerns, and goals of the stakeholders. We've had over 50 meetings with many organizations and people connected to the park and to the communities around it. And we have continued these efforts since July, post-award of the RFP, on our own and alongside the city of Boston. This slide and the next list many of the organizations we have met and continue to engage with. Our continuing outreach and talking to stakeholders to better inform the project continues. We continue to listen and learn and inform ourselves on the key areas, welcoming community feedback on transportation, park activation, design, supplier diversity, and community benefits. We appreciate the surrounding community's passion and commitment to preserve and enhance their neighborhood. We want to be a good neighbor during the planning, construction, and operation of White Stadium. Next. Our design team from Moody Nolan and Stantec Architecture have been hard at work taking a holistic approach in their visioning, with the understanding that the renovation needs to incorporate the programming needs of BPS and our soccer team, improved access and community amenities, as well as the landscape activation of the park. In front of you, you can see an updated rendering of what we are hoping for. It shows the stadium on a regular non-game day with the improved 8-lane regulation track. Next. We've been advancing on many fronts at a ferocious speed, including the design, site integration, and landscaping and transportation plans. This rendering reflects an image on game day. Next. Throughout our consideration of new programming and design, we have started with a recognition that White Stadium is a city asset with a rich history of storied athletic rivalries, epic concerts, community festivals, and meaningful gatherings, and treasured day-to-day use and access. We appreciate the range of connection that this stadium has fostered, and we want to restore and build upon that legacy. Next. In our numerous conversations with community stakeholders, we have so enjoyed the retelling of the stories of past experiences in White Stadium and recognize the role that the stadium has played over the years. To capture that history, we are looking with our design team at ways to chronicle the years of great moments through art, design, and multimedia, digital media. Next. We are also focusing with our design team on how the stadium interacts with the park and engages residents on game days and non-game days. This work is ongoing, and we will be presenting on that in future meetings, as the city outlined earlier, in the public meeting schedule that is to come. Next. This slide introduces the lead ownership group. We are a diverse, female-managed ownership group where 40% of the invested capital was invested by investors of color, including both Black and Brown investors, and 95% invested by women. We share a strong belief that sports brings communities together and present a unique opportunity to forge connections across neighborhoods, race, gender, and economics. Sports brings together the athletes on the field and the fans in the stands, despite their different backgrounds, and unites them around a common purpose. White Stadium is also a connector of communities, and our hope is that this stadium project can serve as a catalyst for positive change. Next. Boston Unity Soccer Partners will center this project through an equity lens. We are committed to enhancing diversity and inclusion by engaging neighborhood partners and businesses and supporting the community. We are thinking about this through every stage of building our organization, our team, and our stadium. Next. I'm going to shift to supplier diversity and economic benefits. And for that, I'm going to introduce Bill Caravori of Able Company. Able Company is our development partner on the project.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Bill Caravori, and I am responsible for on this project for the development of White Stadium for, or at least West Grandstand and the Grove for Boston Unity Soccer Partners. We see this as a great opportunity for economic benefit for the communities around the park, minority and women-owned business, and for veterans and LGBTQ businesses and workers. Namely, we see over 500 construction jobs and over 300 permanent jobs, over $30 million of, well over $30 million of construction, and well over $5 million of annual contracts in its operational state. And we want to focus that money to the extent that we can, and we want to prioritize the communities around the park and the minority and women-owned businesses around the park. We're developing a process to meet this goal. Our goal is 50% minority, women-owned business, veterans, LGBTQ businesses and workers on this project. It's a big goal, and we are going to need all the help that we can get to achieve it. And we are developing a process to get there with the help of the city, civic leaders, minority trade organizations, and with a lot of community input as well. Next slide, please. But our process is in process, and we welcome all comments on it. The process, our project we see in 3 phases. There's a design and permitting phase, a construction phase, and a steady state operational phase for the stadium and the Grove. Each one of those phases we are looking at distinctly, and we will be measuring our performance to this 50% goal in each phase. And we are the process that we are putting together, that we are outlining here tonight, is a 5-step process, and we'll continue to improve and work on in the coming months. We're well, as you can imagine, we are well into the design and permitting portion of the project, and I can direct your attention just to the chart on the right, which identifies that is our design and permitting team, and we're happy to say that we have achieved. We've exceeded. Pardon me.
Do you want the next slide?
No, if you look at the bottom of the chart there, it shows that we've exceeded our goal in this first phase. So we're quite happy about that. But as far as the process goes, we're really focusing on this process for the next 2 phases, which will be which are larger and will have more of an impact. And the first step is a needs assessment. So I'm just going to go through the five steps that we're going to be following for these next two phases. A needs assessment, which is basically to say that we are going to identify the opportunities here for contracting and for worker and for talent. And it will turn into a publishable document, which we will then post on our website and disseminate to the city and to the communities around the park as soon as we can, so that in the ensuing months, as we prepare to execute these contracts, we have got as much access as we can. So first step is to identify the scopes of work that we need to fill. Next slide. This is just to show this is our team, and they've been doing a great job for us, and they have met it's our first opportunity to measure here, and we're on track. Next slide. Second piece is sourcing and recruitment, or another way to say it is to get the word out and to develop a database of potential businesses and talent that can help us achieve this goal. We want to focus and prioritize on the community surrounding the park first. And the way we're going to do this is with our website is a core component of this, so that people can visit the website, they can understand what is available, what is coming up. For example, a landscaping contract or an electrical contract. Then that information can be taken out into the community, and for those qualified trades, they can respond, and we'll develop this database and start speaking to these companies and people so that we can try to find a way to work with them, either as the prime contract or as a joint venture contract. That'll include job fairs and hiring events in the community so that we can make sure that we're getting as much access as possible. Next slide. And then hopefully we'll have developed enough relationships here where we know where we're going to be focusing. So just to speak about timing, we're in our design and permitting phase now. We anticipate that we will be into our construction phase in July, which would demand that we would be out into the market for bids and contract and subcontract awards in June. So we would be between now and June, we will publish our needs assessment. We'll prop up our website to handle this database, and we will conduct these outreach fairs and programs so that we can get as much as full a database as possible prior to June for the construction aspect. And then a similar process will be taken on for the steady state operational stadium contracts, security, shuttle service, usher service, concessions, and on and on and on. Audio visual, all the the mini city things that need to be contracted for and hired for the operational steady state of the stadium in the Grove. And that will become operational in the fourth quarter of 2025 in anticipation of the season opener in the first quarter of 2026. So we will be doing a similar outreach, utilizing the same tools to develop a database so that when it's time to contract for these needs, we are prepared. And then in terms of selection and interview process, like I said, we are going to prioritize local, minority and women-owned business, veterans, LGBTQ, businesses and talent. And we are going to have hopefully understood what is available, and to the extent that it is standalone, qualified, great. And if it needs a joint venture support, but can be made to work in that context, we'll have understood that, and we'll be looking to achieve it that way as well. Next slide, please. The other thing that we want to do, much like we just took a look at the first phase, the design and permitting results, we will also be measuring ourselves on these other two phases, construction and operations. And you know, this is going to require a lot of help and input from the community to achieve our goal, and we're hoping that our ability to be transparent and open about where we're at and how we're going about it will help in this regard. We have been asked about how we will we go about making the selection process, and we are developing a strategy around that will include community input as well, so that we're making sure that we have in fact found the right talent, and that we are getting as broad an access as possible. Next slide. And as I've been describing in this process, we do recognize that for us to meet this goal, we will probably be needing to support and mentor businesses that may not be in a position yet to fulfill a prime contract, but can meet a joint venture contract or a subcontract within a task line. And we are, if we can get access to these companies in enough time, we can provide mentorship, and we can also provide the right kind of partnership format so that this can be a successful arrangement. Next slide. And that concludes the supplier diversity component of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I want to shift and highlight to the range of community benefits that we envision through the stadium renovation, as well as through the Grove, which I'll show you an image of in the next couple of slides. You know, for the students of BPS and Boston's youth, local businesses, and community, this slide lists some of the ways that we think this project could provide great benefit. For the students, we are thinking a lot about internship programs focused on exposing students to careers in sports medicine, broadcasting, communication, marketing. You can see the list on this slide. We hope to offer a mentorship program with one-on-one support for student development, as well as annual soccer academy scholarships. Lastly, we want to help youth understand the potential professional and collegiate pathways that might be available to them. You know, it's always been a dream, it seems, perhaps for boys thinking about a career in professional sports. We hope the introduction of this women's team with world-class female athletes will actually allow girls to dream, to have that same dream as boys might have. In addition, you know, our improvements to the West Grandstand and the city's improvements on the other side, as well as the Grove, will provide for enhanced community spaces, new event spaces, new programming possibilities. And It'll also allow us an opportunity to promote the neighborhood, both on game day and beyond. Bill already spoke about the marketing and advertising and but game day, we can market and advertise for neighborhood businesses and we envision a game day spotlight for 40 plus businesses and organizations throughout our season. We also, look forward to the increased public safety that'll come with the new lighting and the security that we will introduce on our game days. Next slide, please. This slide is just a exciting way to show through these renderings about the difference between game day and non-game day. I think I just want to remind everyone that our game days are approximately 20 days between March and November, primarily on weekends. The image on the left shows game day, and there's retractable and mobile seating to transform the running track loop for additional seating areas. On the left, you see it on for athletic use with this beautiful new track. There'll be new restrooms, water fountains, accessible accommodations. Everything will be well lit, better maintained, more comfortable seating, and we'll introduce a new digital scoreboard for both our team as well as occasional use by the Boston Public Schools. I mean, it seems particularly exciting to me to think about, is there another public school system or in the country? I mean, there might be, but not that I'm aware of, that actually will get to play in a world-class professional athletic facility. This is, a really unique model that the city of Boston is presenting that hopefully other cities across the country might take note of. Next slide. The Grove is also, we hope, a community benefit for the full calendar year. It's a 62,500 square foot space south of the stadium. It will be programmable as a community gathering spot all year long, designed with flexibility to be reconfigured in a number of ways based on the activities desired. It can change with the seasons. So on game day, it'll be a location for fan events and additional concessions. And on non-game days, we envision an open air restaurant, movie nights, Friday night jazz, ice skating in the winter. We really have enjoyed talking with the community and hearing your ideas about how we might program the Grove. Next. These are just some other images also of our that we've been working on with the design team as we're thinking through the Grove. There's so many incredible community events already in the stadium, and the Grove will just enhance and allow for for expanded use for the cultural and musical festivals that are already there, food festivals, and you can see down in the bottom right corner image of a wine and beer garden and a skating rink, yoga night. All right, next slide. I'm going to invite Linda Whitlock from our ownership group, who's going to talk about the Boston Unity Annual Community Fund, which will be, in addition to our lease payments, it will be an annual fund, sum of money that will go back to the community. Linda, can you join us?
Thanks, Jennifer. And good evening, everyone. You've heard a lot, many of us talk at you. This is a very exciting project, and we certainly want there to be time for you to offer your comments and to ask your questions. So I'll try to talk about the Boston Unity Annual Community Fund in an efficient fashion. I thought that it might be useful for me to start with my not only being a proud owner of the Boston Unity soccer team, but I've been a long time engaged member of multiple communities in Boston. From my leadership in the 80s, which says how old I am, of the Boston State Hospital Citizen Advisory Committee process, to my leadership of Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston in the early 2000s. It's been important to me, as it is to Jennifer, to Bill, to Stephanie Connaughton, another member of our ownership group who's with us tonight, and the entire ownership team, to be engaged in ways of helping families, youth, businesses, and communities thrive. As Jennifer said, in addition to our lease payments to the city for the use of White Stadium and the area that we're calling the Grove, adjacent to the stadium, we intend to create a Boston Unity Community Fund. We'll contribute $500,000 into the fund each year of our expected lease of the facilities. Again, this will be on top of the eventual lease payments that will pay the city, so that with a $500,000 a year commitment, that would be $5 million over a lease term of 10 years, all for the benefit of the community. Based on the conversations that we've had with so many of you and your organizations and local elected officials and businesses, and of course, the city, we have identified the following areas of neighborhood importance that will be the focus of the fund's grant making. The first is Franklin Park and the Franklin Park Action Plan implementation. This is a jewel that will be our home to share with the community and with the city as a whole. Our second area of grant-making focus will be youth sports and youth development. Our core business is centered on sports. So we, of course, are eager to help support the healthy physical development of our youth, both Boston Public School students, as well as all community youth, and to enable them to experience the joys and the possibilities through teamwork and dealing with adversity, goal setting, that come from engagement in physical activity, engagement in sports. But we're also eager to help the young people of our city grow in all areas of their development, from their educational development to their socio-emotional development, to building life skills, as well as having career trajectories that will enable them and their future families to flourish. Thirdly, we're focused on health and wellness, particularly of Black and Brown communities. In so many of our conversations over the past year, we've heard about the health disparities that exist in our communities and about the opportunities that we might have to help build healthier neighborhoods, healthier families through the fund and through our grant-making activities, as well as through our soccer team's assets and expertise. Athletes need healthy bodies to perform at a very high level. So we can envision leveraging our annual fund contributions, as well as our other resources and assets, to help reduce those health disparities. And then lastly, but just as important, is our focus on investing in local business development. We're a startup business, and so we have a natural interest in helping other local businesses flourish. We know the effects of discriminatory access to capital, to resources, to capacity building that has constrained the growth and the development of so many of our local businesses, particularly those owned by Black and Brown and other people of color and by women. So through the fund, we intend to help catalyze the growth of neighborhood businesses for their own wealth building trajectories, but also to enable them to create more neighborhood jobs and to provide even better products and services to the local neighborhood residents. So these are very ambitious goals. As you know, I think Bill and Jennifer indicated generally with regard to supplier diversity, those are ambitious goals as well. But we believe in being ambitious and then doing what it takes to achieve those goals. We don't have all the answers, which is why we intend to create a community fund advisory committee to help guide our grant making. It will include residents from the neighborhoods around Franklin Park and will be our eyes and ears on the ground that will help us drive lasting, meaningful impact in the communities that we will be proud to call Boston Unity's home. We're excited about what we can accomplish together, and we're so grateful for your and the city's continued support, encouragement, loving criticism, and your terrific ideas. So with that, thank you. Back to Brianna and Morgan.
Thank you, Linda. I am just gonna conclude with the sentiment that, you know, we do believe that women's sports can be a force for good, and we are looking forward to bringing our Boston community together around a new professional women's soccer team. Our mission is not only to bring our another championship team to our great city and to provide an exciting fan experience in a historic stadium with an inclusive environment that reflects the diversity of our region and the world's most popular sport. We want to make sports more accessible, to work with the city of Boston to give our student athletes at the BPS a professional level stadium to play in, and to introduce our youth and girls in particular in their neighborhood to exceptional female adult role models in both sports and in business. We're committed to supporting all of the great work being done across our city and state to develop businesses and careers for people of color, to provide a place for the Franklin Park communities to gather in new ways, and to complement the great work the city of Boston is doing to restore Franklin Park. So thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We look forward to a Q&A and, you know, an ongoing conversation, not just tonight, but throughout the remainder of our planning and, as I said, and construction and eventual operation of White Stadium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you to the Boston Unity team. As Jennifer mentioned, we're going to be headed right into our question and feedback portion. So now we have time for that. The chat function has now been opened or will be opened very shortly. Feel free to leave comments and questions directly in the chat, and we'll filter through those and do our best to answer those questions. I just want to be clear, this conversation is about supplier diversity, workforce development, and community benefits. For the live Q&A portion, please raise your hand using the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, and we will unmute you so you will be able to ask your question directly. Please know that we'll be taking all comments and questions and feedback also. If you do not have a chance to speak tonight, or it maybe not feel comfortable speaking in this crowd, please just email directly whitestadium@boston.gov. So thank you. With that, I will check out the chat. I seen someone's hand raised. I may have missed it. So I see Mohammed has a question, but you can use the raise your hand function.
Hey y'all. Thank you so much for the presentation, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Jennifer at an event not so long ago, and we had a very cool conversation. Yep. So yeah, just to elaborate, my name is Mohammed Bari, and I'm the program director of Teens in Print. We are a youth journalism program here in Boston. So my question really ties into the space of when in this process will community partners like Teens in Print have the chance to engage in looking at ways to plug in our reporters who would love to cover the story of what's going on, but also maybe crafting a process of like internships and having access to covering the events once they start. Yeah, that's pretty much the question. Thank you so much.
It's nice to see you again, and I can say we'd love to engage you already. So I do remember when I met you that you gave me that we exchanged actually contact information. So I look forward to connecting you and thinking about ways that we can, move forward and learn from you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that question, Mohammed. I know there's definitely going to be room for collaboration. There's actually, so I see Andrew Sharp. We're gonna unmute you. There you go. Andrew?
Thank you so much, Brianna. I appreciate you. Very good initiative. I'm so happy. I didn't get the chance to meet with you guys, but I do get your newsletter. And that's really amazing. You did bring out something in the presentation, because I was just wondering if the stadium was only going to be for football, but I realized it's going to be multi-purpose. One of the things I think you have forgotten about in our community, I'm from the Caribbean. I'm the president of the Authentic Caribbean Foundation and also a park advisor, board member for Emerald Necklace. One of the things I realized you didn't mention was hopefully it will be accessible for the cricketers, because in Franklin Park, we have cricket. So, and if we're talking about diversity and inclusion, we can't forget majority, the percentage of persons who live in that neighborhood, and I always like to brag and boast about it, is our Caribbean folks, Caribbean American folks. So hopefully that is being considered. I'm looking forward to also connecting with you guys in terms of sports program in athletics. My cousin is Usain Bolt, proud supporter.
Wow.
And I don't see much spotlight on athletics, especially in the city of Boston. So hopefully there's something that can be done in terms of the athletics portion for the stadium in terms of programming. I'm happy also to see that you're including concerts and festivals. That's the area where the Boston Carnival culminate right there in Franklin Park. So I'm so happy to see that you're designing it that we who does festivals and so forth will be able to utilize the facility in that aspect. So thank you so much for the great work. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys. I missed a few of the meetings, but I'm happy that I'm here at this one. And I must say big up to the city of Boston for moving us forward and being inclusive. Let's not forget the design must be accessible. Let's not forget persons with disability. I'm a big champion on that. And we must always consider in design access, not just only for wheelchair, but for persons who are walkers and so forth. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Andrew. So we have some people in the chat that actually, so I'm going to go back and forth. Someone is shy to ask their question, so I'm going to read it as requested. During the Q&A portion, please discuss in more detail the legal procurement rules and processes for bidding out and contracting work on each side of the stadium, including if and what different rules for contracting with minority and women-owned businesses will apply to city construction and or Boston Unity construction. I can also repeat that again. So it seems like a probably like a Andrew, like maybe a shotgun question, and then also a Jennifer question or Bill. But the question is, Can you explain the like procurement rules when we're contracting work out on the city side? And
I can start with the city side, and if there are folks from the operations cabinet or from public facilities who want to chime in on specifics, that would also be great too. So on the city side, this type of construction project follows a set of public procurement rules for vertical construction that require subcontractors to be certified have a specific certification to perform the trade work associated with the project. So when we're thinking about supplier diversity goals for the project, we're tying the goals essentially to the type of work that the project will entail. So that's all the sub-trades that will be utilized on the project, and the availability of diverse businesses to perform that work. So that's how we set goals on the city's construction projects, whether those are vertical construction or public works construction. And I think, with respect to specific public procurement laws, I think, folks from the public facilities department could potentially provide a more detailed description of how the procurement process for a construction project like White Stadium unfolds. But I don't want to monopolize the time here. I want to give our partners on the private side an opportunity to respond.
I'm going to ask Bill Carabori of Able Company to take that one. I think he might need to be unmuted.
Yep, I'm unmuted. Well, on our part, we have made this commitment to a 50% goal for WMBE veterans and LGBTQ contracts, and I imagine that will. I'm not sure how that will actually play itself out in terms of legal obligation with respect to the city. I'm sure that we will enter into an agreement, however, on Boston residents' jobs policy and other common agreements that are part of a typical development project. Our commitment for 50% is well above any of those standards.
Thank you. Setting the bar there. Thank you, Bill and Jennifer, and thank you to the city team. I see Ted Laska. I hope I pronounced it correctly. It's gonna ask you to. There you go.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm unmuted now. To kind of piggyback on Mr. Sharp's point about having cricket in the stadium, Boston Public Schools has a pretty basic offering for athletics for the Boston Public School students. The professional teams in town don't really do much to enhance those opportunities. They do sort of hit and get public relations stuff, but nobody really acts as a catalyst to offer more diverse opportunities in sports. I'm assuming that the women's professional team will offer support to at least the women's football industry, but it would be really nice if they could act as a catalyst to bring new sports, something that hasn't been offered to the Boston Public School students. Just as an example, there's no field hockey in Boston at all, and this is sort of the epicenter of field hockey in the United States. And Boston is the capital of New England, and there's no field hockey. There are a bunch of other holes and absences in sports here in the city, but perhaps instead of, in addition to supporting women's football, they could also look into helping or becoming a catalyst for adding new sports that the Boston Public School students have heretofore not had the opportunity to play. That's it.
Thank you. That's an interesting comment and idea for us to really be thoughtful about. There's also a new women's professional hockey team that is going to be launching in 2024. Ice hockey, not field hockey. And there is a women's professional football team here. So, you know, I hope in addition to us that we have some sort of, you know, collaboration amongst pro sports, you know, pro women's sports team here in the city of Boston, and that can inspire new pathways for, you know, our youth and girls in particular.
Thank you for that. Next we'll have Thomas, and then, but I first want to acknowledge two electeds that entered the room. State Representative Chris Worrell, and also Boston City Councilor District 4, Brian Worrell. If you guys wanted to say something very quickly. If not, that is also fine.
Thank you, Chief Malloy, and thank you to all of our residents who are here tonight engaging in this conversation. I'm just looking forward to the conversation, hear from our residents, and take that feedback to continue to advocate for the voices in our community. So thank you to everyone that's here tonight, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, and again, thank you guys for all the 103 community members that care so much about this. Hearing your voice is so important. And thank you for the development team for hearing the community's voice. And thank you to the city of Boston for putting this on, and hearing the community's voice as well. And I'm just here just to listen and hear the community.
Thank you. I seen Thomas. Was it Tom? Thomas put his hand down. Thomas? Perfect.
Yes, I'm here. Hello. Good evening. My name is Thomas Gross. I'm a lifelong resident of this neighborhood, and I'm also a union food service worker. I'm wondering what the quality of the food service worker jobs will be at the stadium, because I recently negotiated a $30 an hour wage with my employer down the street, and the jobs at other unionized Boston centers pay great as well. Will these food service jobs be good union food service jobs for our neighborhood?
That's a great question, Thomas. I think that's Jennifer's question.
You know, we're just have been trying to, in the early phases of developing our concession strategy and program, and certainly want to incorporate, you know, taste of the neighborhood within that strategy, you know, either within the stadium or the Grove. But Bill, do you have anything more to add to that question?
Well, we don't know that, I don't know that this is going to be quite as organized a concession in the traditional sense that is going to, you know, lend itself to be unionized. We're seeing this, there's a couple different formats that we're looking at here. Another one is that this would be partnerships with vendors more in a food hall style than a concession style. But we haven't nailed that down. We're still exploring the options, and it's being incorporated into our design. So we don't have a good answer about how that workforce is going to get sourced, and whether or not it's going to be more that, you know, union version or a vendor version from small business in the community.
Thank you, Thomas, for the question, though. Think about it.
David Sandak, and then Nathan Stern.
Hi, my name is David Sandak. I live just a stone's throw away from White Stadium. I'm in a butter. My question is actually for the city, not for the team. And Morgan or John or anyone else in the city, I'd love to hear kind of what plans you have and what progress has been made about making a long-term commitment to ensuring that park maintenance is fully funded. There's going to be beyond the community benefit fund, which seems like it'll benefit Franklin Park, which is great. There's also going to be at least $1.5 million in revenue of lease payments, rev share, and concessions revenue sharing and ticket sales that'll be going from the soccer team to the city. And my hope is that we can start to use some of those funds to pay for some of the neglect in Franklin Park and to fund the action plan, whose total ticket is well in excess of what revenues would be generated. But curious from the city, beyond what the team is saying that they're willing to do to commit to help improve maintenance of the park and move forward the action plan, what is the city's commitment at this stage in terms of being willing to restrict revenues that are derived from the stadium for the benefit of Franklin Park, both from a maintenance perspective and in terms of moving forward parts of the action plan?
Yeah, thanks, David. I think at this time, we want to make sure that this project, the city side, the Boston Unity side, advances the goals of the Franklin Park Action Plan as much as possible. We are still, working through design and are excited to talk about this at a later time. I think, we are very excited to be putting, to discuss in the future at the appropriate time as we get the Community Benefits Fund and sort of the advisory group more set, to see where it might make sense to put some of those funds towards supporting Franklin Park. And yeah, I think we want to think big picture about how to make sure that the Franklin Park Action Plan is supported as much as possible. I think, we'll have more to come on that in the future.
Thank you, Morgan. Nathan?
Hey, how are you guys? Thanks for putting this on this evening. My name is Nathan Stern. I am a Boston Public Schools teacher at the Dearborn STEM Academy, and I also run a youth soccer organization here in Boston that caters towards low income and underserved neighborhoods. In addition to that, I'm at Franklin Park all the time. My kids play soccer, they run and do a variety of other activities. And so, very keen on hearing more about this and, really excited that a women's team's coming to Boston, as I have 3 daughters myself, and, they need these role models to look up to, just like anyone else does. So my question is, what sort of priority is going to be given to Boston city teams, specifically Boston school-based teams? Because this, White Stadium gets used for any number of things. I've gone for soccer, football, track, you name it, it's happened. So what I'm wondering is, like, how, if you're going to have a professional grade grass field, how are you also going to balance that and allow little kids to run all over it? Because anything I've known about, at colleges and such, when they have grass fields, it's like no one walks on the grass except on game days. And so is there going to be a majority of the time dedicated towards our city teams, or is it going to be, kind of more like the Reggie Lewis or the track at New Balance, where it's right here in the city, but everyone but city members get to use it? So sorry, that was a really long-winded kind of rant question, but yeah, I curious to hear more about the team's plans on the usage.
Yeah, I think I can start to answer that question, and then we have Avery Esdell here, who's the Director of Athletics from BPS as well, if there's anything he'd like to add. Our goal here really for the city for this whole project is to create an incredible athletics asset for our Boston Public Schools students. The stadium is currently very heavily utilized by BPS athletics, and we intend for it to continue to be heavily utilized by BPS athletics. I think, the details on schedule obviously are things we can't say at this time, but that is our sort of North Star with this project. And Avery, is there anything you want to add?
No, I think I would just echo what you said, Morgan. As we've gone through this project, we know as the current inhabitants at White Stadium that There's a demand for the space, and I think that we wanted to be better about being able to meet that demand. So the first part of being able, excuse my dog, the first part of being able to get there was really having a facility that we had confidence in and that we were proud about. And so I think once we get that piece, accounted for, then it allows us to really sit down and look at schedules and look at, what the needs are, and do our best to work at addressing and meeting those.
Thank you, Avery, and thank you, Morgan. Yes, it is our North Star to make sure that BPS students and athletes are well supported and represented through this project. So thank you for those answers. Kevin Batts and then Murray Miller. Kevin? Nope. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Kevin Bott. I live on Peter Parley, just close to the entrance of White Stadium off of Walnut and Sigourney. I also serve on the Franklin Park Coalition Board. And I want to just touch back a bit on the Franklin Park Action Plan. I realize, and I very much appreciate that there's going to be an upcoming meeting just on that. I think Morgan may have been referring to that upcoming meeting. So that's great. And just to frame my question is going to be to Boston Unity, but to frame this, the action plan, is estimated to cost between $150 and $200 million in capital funds if it was fully implemented. That's over perhaps 20 years, but it's a huge undertaking. My question is, to what extent Boston Unity in managing the stadium will be able to extend its operations beyond the footprint of the stadium to do some of the minor things that we really have been struggling to do. We do volunteer trash pickups 3 or 4 times in the spring, a couple times in the fall. We're not able to keep up with it. I'm walking now through the barrack dens and other places close by the stadium, still covered with trash, even though we've had various volunteer days. I'm wondering if Unity would be able to incorporate into their operations sort of weekly or bi-weekly, whatever it takes, trash pickup in not just the stadium, but the immediate environment around the stadium, perhaps do some of the woodland restoration around the stadium, between, say, Walnut and Sigourney and the stadium, over there in Long Crouch Woods and that entrance from Seaver Street, the corner of Seaver and Walnut, and perhaps even upgrade the park benches that are there that are in serious disrepair. So there are a variety of relatively small maintenance things that I guess my question is, can Boston Unity conceive of having a crew that would help do some of that? Because we're going to have to struggle to even get the most minimum maintenance folks into the city budget. We're looking forward to that fight this coming year. Right now, there's only 4 part-time maintenance folks dedicated to Franklin Park, the whole park. So you can imagine how difficult it is, even with volunteers, to do some of that minimal maintenance. And so, yes, we hope that the Franklin Park Action Plan is fully funded. Yes, we hope some of the big capital projects can be done. Yes, we hope that the city budget can include maintenance folks. But the Boston Unity folks, where do you see your role in doing some of that stuff around the stadium? Once it's built, obviously.
Thank you, Kevin. It's nice to see you again. I think that is one of the benefits of a public-private partnership, right? That we can dedicate, our ample staff and some of our private funding to help improve, the stadium and the immediate surrounds around it. And I'm very much looking forward to that public meeting where we get, further, we get deeper on the Franklin Park Action Plan itself.
Thank you, Jennifer. Just to remind people, I don't know, a couple of people may have joined a little bit late. This meeting is specifically about the supplier diversity and the $500,000 community benefit fund. There will be 3 meetings following up on the community process about the Franklin Park Action Plan, about BPS and the community usage of the White Stadium, and then the stadium and facilities design. So I want everyone to keep that in mind when like framing and asking their questions. And we also previously had a meeting on transportation. If you have questions on any of those topics, we do have an email, and someone from my team will drop that in the chat if they have off-topic questions. But we want to make sure this conversation stays on topic, because we have the experts in the room to answer those questions on supply diversity, workforce development, and the community benefit fund. Murray, sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Murray Miller, Director of the Office of Historic Preservation for the City of Boston. Given the age, importance, and condition of the existing stadium, and given the slide that depicted the design team with 25 disciplines, the question is, would there be a preservation consultant on board? And the second question, under the heading Community Benefits, New Pathways for BPS, there are multiple internship opportunities that expose students to potential careers. Given the age, importance, and condition of the existing stadium, might historic preservation trades, material scientists, preservation contractors, and condition assessors, as examples, also be opportunities for students? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We're happy to, oh, Jennifer, did you want to?
Well, thank you. That's an interesting idea. And certainly, you know, we have an amazing design team right now that I know is very much thinking about preservation. I think some of them are on this call tonight. So you're bringing that up will just reemphasize in their minds how important, you know, it is to think about preservation as well. And love ideas for internships. If we have the expertise and we can provide guidance in other areas, you know, we are open to ideas as we structure that.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Now we're looking in the chat because I see no hands raised. Okay. Laura Everett. One of the things we are at, let me skip to the question part. Would Boston Unity Soccer Partners commit partnership with the City of Boston in advocating for state legislature for more liquor licenses for Black and Brown owned businesses around Franklin Park, and or help finance these expensive licenses? It's hard to champion and spotlight 40+ businesses when so few can host pre and post game parties before soccer matches. So I don't know, Jennifer, if you want to take that question, but I think another way to think or reframe this question is, are we going to be, is the Boston Unity sports team going to, soccer team going to be intentional about, you know, hiring Black and Brown businesses or contracting out to Black and Brown businesses? Yeah, I think that's another way to reframe the question.
Well, I think that is, you know, what Bill laid out in his, you know, supplier diversity plan. Absolutely, that is the intent and that is the goal. You know, I love the idea of watch parties in and around the stadium. And, you know, I don't really know about our ability to help with liquor license, but I certainly could help cross promote any, you know, businesses that are looking to host watch parties and think about collaboration there.
Thank you,
it's a
Jennifer.
really interesting question, actually. I'd love to think about it further.
Barry Lawton, we can unmute you for your question.
Okay. All right.
I am very excited about this project and the potential that it has. As a former educator and a teacher at Madison Park High School, there is a lot of potential there, from concessions to broadcasting to a lot of different things that could be expanded. So I see great potential here. The community and the surrounding community may recall that during the Boston 2024 conversation about what could be done with that park and the potential use for it, there's a lot of very valuable data there that I think that should be accessed and would help in adding some foundation to the data and the support for the uses that you propose for this. Just a quick question on the community benefit. The community benefit of $500,000 annually is constant, but I would think the community and surrounding community has an investment in this. So if there is growth in the project, and if it is a generator of income, should not the fund also increase as well as a basis? I don't really know, but I threw that out there because everybody's invested in this and everybody should benefit from it. Just to go back also to the sports, I coached track, ran track for many years up here in Boston, and we share. Boston doesn't have a common athletic facility. We share it with the state, and so there's regional demand there. There's limitations, and so I missed the early part of the design program, but generally something like this might have an indoor field house where there could be an indoor track where Boston residents and Boston public school students would also have access to it, something that they don't have now. But I'll stop right there. But it's great potential, and I'm very happy. And I know Linda Whitlock from early Dukakis years, so she brings a lot of credibility to this project.
Well, thank you very much, Barry. It's good to be re-engaged with you after all these years.
And thank you for your recommendations, Barry, as well. To the next question. So the team is doing a scan of questions in the chat, just so we're keeping on topic. The next on topic question that we see is, what is the commitment to recruiting and utilizing our vocational technical students in construction and operations? That could be I guess that could be definitely a city side question, because there's two projects. And Jennifer, do you want to go first and then the city?
I'm happy to help out with that one too. It sounds like a great idea. We haven't developed that as part of our process, but it makes sense. Certainly with the largest vocational school being in the neighborhood down the street, certainly something to be tapped into.
It's a good idea.
To make that part of our strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the point of these meetings, to get some ideas from the community. So thank you for sharing that question in the chat. Does the city side wanna, Morgan?
I'll just note that we have people on, from our team that are looking at the chat and noting and as you said.
And replying too.
Well, that's great. And Brianna, as you said, though, that is, we don't have all the answers right now, but that is the purpose of these public meetings as well, is to hear the questions and allow us to put further thought. So, for all the concerns and questions raised. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. So that I don't see any more questions related to workforce development or supply diversity or the community benefits in the chat. I wanted to give a second for folks to raise their hand if they have any questions, or let me see, drop in the chat. Yeah, I see it. And the city and the soccer team has been doing a great job of replying directly in the chat. So if that is it, I want to be mindful of, it's evening time, and also give space for people to ask final questions. Okay, I see none. Okay. gives everyone a second to answer questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
the other thing I could mention is that we do have a website, nwslboston.com, and there's both the email, contact information and sign up for the newsletter so you get updated about ongoing information and developments. So it's another opportunity outside of these meetings to contact us. And
definitely. And again, this, like
Very
Jennifer said, this is an ongoing conversation. Jennifer and the team as alongside the city has been doing countless points of engagement and just explaining directly to residents and different groups on what's happening. I do see a hand from Linda M.
Yes, you do.
You're muted now.
This is all very interesting, and in regard to the community, we have lots of places to have and get liquor. Number one, the infrastructure around the park is in disrepair and will not support a 10,000 seat stadium. People in the community that I've spoken to, lots of them have not even heard of this plan to redo the White Stadium. There's a public health issue surrounding the area. When you start construction, if this goes through, the rat population in Jamaica Plain, Roxbury, Dorchester is going to mushroom. Things were brought up about maintenance in the park and security, and nothing's clear about that. And who does the security? Is it gonna be the Rangers? Is it going to be the city?
Linda, do you have a question regarding supplier diversity?
I'm speaking right now, please. Thank you.
So we want to be mindful of time.
I see the time. And
Okay.
I've been mindful of everybody else saying something, so please, thank you.
I just want to make sure you have a question in the comment.
Well, we'll get to that, dear.
Okay.
And all of these things that I'm saying are recorded, and you can look back at them and maybe address them with other meetings or with this one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the White Stadium is a wonderful place, and in my opinion, since the pandemic, everybody's looking at it, and you have a wonderful, nice, rich group coming in, throwing money around, and making it the great panacea. Oh, we're going to help kids and all this other stuff. And the Boston public school system has allowed sports to be so bad that they're panting at the bit because, oh, you're gonna have a lot of money. We're gonna do this for the kids and that for the kids, but you all are gonna make a whole lot of money. Okay. And yeah, the $500,000 a year, whatever it's going to be for the community fund, wonderful, depending upon how it's run and who runs it and whose interests are going to be served. And it's just ingenious, in my opinion.
Linda,
The heavy weight that you put on, the heavy weight that you put on for the benefits of the students.
Again, I also see Rep. Fluker Oakley. I don't know if she wanted to say a few words. Okay, so thank you all for participating in this community engagement session. As mentioned, we have many, many more around the Franklin Park Action Plan, around the construction and facilities, and many more opportunities to engage with the soccer team in the city. If you did not get your questions answered today, please email us at whitestadium@boston.gov, because we want to make sure to collect all this information. And also the whole chat is being recorded, and also we'll be making sure to have those answers and responsive back to the people who answer, who send email questions. Also, please check out our website at boston.gov/white-stadium for project updates. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we look forward to continuing to reimagine White Stadium and to really include your vision and your insight into the project. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.